today we're going to be filming our post-free agency mock draft. This video is going to come out a little later, but most of the moves have been made regarding free agency and even some trades. So we have a little bit better of idea of what people and teams are going to be going after in the draft. So this is sort of the first mock draft after that. But without further ado, let's get into this mock draft. First pick, I think it seems like if the Titans don't trade back, which it seems like is a possibility, I think they will go Cam Ward here. Get their QB of the future. The Will Levis experiment did not work, but you can get your guy right now at 1, or like I said, they could probably trade back as well. At 2, I'm going to have the Browns go Travis Hunter. I know they still could go Abdul Carter despite extending Myles Garrett because you still need guys outside of him. I just think that they need a lot more help at positions like receiver and DB, and obviously Travis Hunter can fill both of those to some extent. So I think it's a great pick for the Browns to get Travis Hunter. And at 3, I know I've had him go a little late recently, but I'm actually going to have the Giants take their QB of the future here with Shedeur Sanders at 3. They didn't make any. They could still get Russell Wilson, maybe even Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson, I think, is visiting with the Giants at some point this week. So they still could sign Russ, but I don't think that's going to stop them from potentially taking Shedeur. But since Russell Wilson is still a free agent, we'll go with the Giants taking Shedeur Sanders. Now, with the Patriots at 4, I've gone lineman here in the past, but I'm going to go back to what I used to pick for them, which is Tetairoa McMillan. They didn't really address receiver that much this free agency outside of Mac Hollins, I guess. And so I think they're going to look to get Drake May that number 1 option for him in the draft with McMillan. Jags at 5, I'm going to go Mason Graham because they don't really need Abdul Carter. They got their edge rushers set with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen, so why not complete that D-line with Mason Graham? It'd be one of the better young D-lines in football. I think it's a no-brainer for the Jags at 5. Raiders at 6. A pick I've seen a lot recently for the Raiders at 6 is Ashton Jeanty. With no Shedeur on the board, they obviously aren't going to go QB here. They also have, they have Geno Smith, so I guess they don't need to go QB regardless. But they don't really have a running back. The rushing game was one of the worst in the league last year. And why not get the potential generational running back prospect in Ashton Jeanty to sort of fill that part of your offense out? You got your tight end with Brock Bowers, and now you just need to get guys alongside Jacoby Myers. And it's not a horrible offense for the Raiders, so I like Jeanty at 6. Jets at 7, I think this is personally a no-brainer. You can't let Abdul Carter stay on the board this long. To get Carter at 7, if you're the Jets, is a perfect pick. I know they could use a tackle like Will Campbell or Armin Menbo, but you can't pass on a guy like Abdul Carter at 7, especially because you need edge rusher. It's not like you don't need it. You need the position, and he's clearly the best player available. I think it is a no-brainer in this scenario for the Jets to go with Abdul Carter. Panthers at 8. Without McMillan on the board, without Abdul Carter on the board, I imagine they go one of the 2 Georgia pass rushers, whether that's Mykel Williams or Jalen Walker. I think if this were the case, they'd go Jalen Walker, but I'll switch it up, and I'll have them go with Mykel Williams at 8 out of Georgia. They had one of the worst, not only defenses, but pass rushing units, whatever you want to say, in the NFL. So I think if McMillan's off the board, I think edge rusher is an easy pick for them. With the amount of guys that will be available for them at 8, I think it's an easy pick. It's just who they view as the best, and I'll just go Mykel for this particular mock draft. Saints at 9. Without McMillan on the board, I like tackle here to them because outside of Ryan Ramczyk, they don't have anything. Their Penning draft pick hasn't really worked out, so it's pretty much you go Will Campbell or Armin Menbo. I've seen Menbo kind of rise up the draft stock a little bit, the draft boards, and sort of surpass Will Campbell as that first alignment on the board. So I'll go Armand Menbo out of Missouri to the Saints at 9. Bears at 10. This is an interesting pick because they don't necessarily need to go O-line because they sort of filled that up in free agency with Jonah Jackson, Joe Tooney, and Drew Dahlman. And you can't go Ashton Genty, who I like, to the Bears because he's off the board. And while they don't necessarily need to go tackle here, I'm not too in love with their O lineman. I think it's I can't remember which one it is because they have two O linemen that they've drafted recently. One was in the first round. So Darnell Wright was their first round pick not too long ago. I like him, but Braxton Jones I think was a third round pick. He plays the other tackle spot. I'm not mad at. I'm not like I don't mind Braxton Jones, but I feel like when you can get a guy like Will Campbell at 10, you take him, especially with Genty off the board. Honestly, I like this as a trade back spot with the Bears personally, but we're not doing trades right now, so I like Will Campbell at 10. Niners at 11. I think without the top tackles on the board in Membo or Will Campbell, I like them to go pass rusher here because you have Nick Bosa, but outside of that, you lost Leonard Floyd. You pretty much just have Yetur Gross Matos at that edge spot next to Nick Bosa, so I think he could use some help. And I know there's, Ezra Aqua or Mike Green or James Pierce or even Shamar Stewart, but I like Jalen Walker here to the Niners because outside of Fred Warner, they lost Dre Greenlaw, so they don't really have much at that linebacker position. So while Jalen Walker will primarily be an edge for them, they also have somewhat of a need at linebacker. So he can have some snaps there as well and sort of pitch into that group as well. So I like the fit with him on the Niners. Cowboys at 12. I mean, you could go receiver here, but I doubt it. I think they're just going to go one of the better players available, and a position they need is edge rusher. I like James Pierce to the Cowboys at 12. This feels like a Cowboys pick. I can't really explain it. Dolphins at 13 now. I've had them go Malachi Starks before, but he seems like he might fall down the draft boards. I don't think you go Emanwari at 13. You could go tackle here, but what do you take? Josh Simmons or Kelvin Banks at 13? Possibly. But I think the Dolphins just go best player available. And not only does the best player, at least on this draft board, that doesn't really mean much, but not only is he the best player available, but he fits a need, and that's Jahdae Barron at corner. Outside of Jalen Ramsey, who's on the older side, obviously, you need some help there. They have some guys, younger, more recent draft picks that I don't mind as well. But why not throw another guy in there, Jahdae Barron, to help out the corner unit alongside those guys and Jalen Ramsey. Colts at 14. I think this is an easy Tyler Warren pick. Getting him at 14 is actually pretty good. He's kind of risen recently, but I think this is perfect for the Colts because this is kind of Anthony Richardson's last chance to sort of prove himself as the guy for the Colts. You already have a good running back with good depth at running back. You have a very good receiver core. Your O-line did suffer a little bit in free agency, losing Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, but I still think it's an overall decent unit. But you don't have anybody at tight end, and Tyler Warren just completes that offense almost. And then if you could get a good lineman in the second, I think the Colts have a pretty successful draft, and hopefully they can get what they want out of Anthony Richardson. Falcons at 15, I think you go edge rusher here. I think the next best edge rusher available is easily Shamar Stewart. And also combining that with where I think he would be the next edge rusher drafted out of the guys left. Falcons need that help, need that position desperately. I like the fit. Cardinals at 16, I've constantly given them O linemen because I think that's what they need the most in terms of the top guys on the board. And I'm going to keep going that. I'll go Kelvin Banks here to the Cardinals at 16. I think that's a perfect guy alongside Paris Johnson to help keep Kyler Murray upright. Bengals at 17, they just paid both of their receivers a ridiculous amount of money. They both deserved it. Now, does that mean it was the smartest thing for the Bengals to do? Who knows? But they need defense more than ever. You could go Malachi Starks, a Jahad Campbell, a Mike Green, a Will Johnson. But I actually ooh. I think I like pass rusher here. I think you go Mike Green if you're the Bengals because you might lose Trey Hendrickson. You lost Sam Hubbard. You need that guy off the edge. I like Mike Green for the Bengals at 17. Seahawks at 18. They lost Geno Smith, but they brought Sam Darnold in. You lose your receivers, but you bring Cooper Kupp in, so you don't need to go either direction there. I like O-line for the Seahawks. I like Josh Simmons out of Ohio State to help keep Sam Darnold upright, not Geno Smith. Buccaneers are up at 19. I think this is an easy pick for them, getting Will Johnson. They need corner, I think, the most out of any of their positions. Especially if Hassan Reddick can be a viable piece for them. They definitely, if he is decent, they definitely need corner the most. And Will Johnson still being available at 19, I think, is a steal for Tampa Bay. Denver at 20, another steal here. They need help at receiver. They kind of solidified their defense, bringing in Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. They also brought in Evan Ingram. But you're still missing that receiver outside of Cortland Sutton, and I guess Marvin Mims as well. Luther Burden, perfect at 20 for the Broncos, giving Bo Nix the best chance to have an even better second season. Pittsburgh at 21. I like defense here because you obviously you don't have a QB, but you're not going to take any of the quarterbacks at 21. You could go Malachi Starks. It's probably either Malachi Starks or Kenneth Grant for me. And I'm actually going to go Malachi Starks because Minkah honestly didn't have a phenomenal season for maybe Minkah standards. And obviously Minkah's still good in my opinion, but I like the pick of Malachi Starks and sort of that best player available as well. Chargers at 22. You could go defense here because you lost Joey Bosa. But a position that they didn't really address in free agency is the receiver position. They brought Mike Williams back. That's pretty much it. I like Emeka Egbuka. I think he works well with Ladd McConkey. I know he's more of a slot guy, and that's sort of Ladd McConkey's thing. But I just like Emeka Egbuka, and the Chargers need receivers, so I'm going to go with him. Maybe the fit's not the greatest, but I like him on the team. Packers at 23. They need corner, but you're not going to go with any of the corners here. You're not going to take Trey Amos probably at 23. You could go receiver, but again, do you go Matthew Golden at 23? I'm not sure. They need help on the edge, so I like Donovan Ezra-Okwo to the Packers at 23. Vikings at 24. I think Kenneth Grant is an obvious pick here for the Vikings at 24. I think that's a steal for them personally. They need help on that D-line position. I know they got Jonathan Allen, but now you can have Jonathan Allen, Kenneth Grant, and those guys are on the older side anyway. So I like that to be sort of that youth guy in that D-line room, and you can never have too many D-linemen. Texans at 25. I really like the Gray Zabel pick for him. I'm going to do it again because they kind of need tackle and guards, and Gray Zabel played tackle in college and is more built like a guard, so I think he can sort of have some versatility in that on the O-line and across it. So I like his fit to a Texans team that kind of needs all the spots on the O-line. Rams at 26. I think this is an absolute steal for them. Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. It's a position they need. He's probably the best player on the board. I think it's a no-brainer. Ravens at 27. They could go edge here, but do you go Nick Scorton? Do you go with a Landon Jackson? Possibly. But honestly, I think you just go best player, which in my opinion is Walter Nolan. It doesn't say they need D-line, but I think they could use an interior D-lineman. Because, outside you got Madubuike, but why not pair Madubuike with a guy like Walter Nolan? Lions at 28. They took a little bit of a hit to their O-line. You could go linebacker, but without Jahad Campbell on the board, probably not. You could go with Nick Scorton, but they need some help on that interior. I like Tyler Booker to the Lions at 28. Commanders at 29. I think this is a good pick here. I like Nick Scorton. They don't really have much in terms of rushing the passer. especially once they lost Montez Sweat. I know that was a while ago, but they have more veteran presence on that O-line. With I think Doris Armstrong might still be on the team. Frankie Louvu obviously rushes the passer, but I think to get a pure edge, a young pure edge, I like Nick Scorin to the Commanders at 29. Bills at 30. They don't. They need defense obviously because their defense is very old, and you could go pass rusher here, but I like interior D line. I like Derek Harmon out of Oregon to the Bills at 30. Chiefs at 31. Back-to-back Oregon picks here for me. Josh Connerly. I think the Chiefs need O-line more than they need anything else. And Josh Connerly at 31 I think is a very good pick. And then the Eagles at 32. Last pick here. You could go edge if you're the Eagles. I've liked doing that, but without Scoring on the board, without Ezra Rockwell, I find it hard to potentially go edge. You do have Landon Jackson, who you could take. They did lose Darius Slay, so you could go corner, but again, do you go Trey Amos at 32? Potentially. But honestly, because at the D tackle position, they lost Milton Williams, so it's pretty much just Jalen Carter again. So I like best player available as well as a team fit with Darius Alexander out of Toledo to pair alongside Jalen Carter and try and be that Milton Williams replacement. So here's a quick look at the entire first round, our entire mock draft. Let me know some of your opinions on this mock draft. If you enjoyed the video as a whole, make sure to leave a like. And also, please hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this type of content and you want to see more. Helps the channel a lot. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.